So,
Fantastic. Welcome to another Lunch and Learn. And we're talking today about breaking through that growth ceiling. Has your marketing hit a ceiling? How do you break through it? You feel like, okay, I'm making good money, but how do I get to that next step, that next, that next level? So we're going to talk about that today. Stay tuned. Before we jump in, remember to subscribe to this channel, comment on the video, share, and like. Yeah, all the YouTubey stuff. All right, let's jump in. Hey, Nate,
hello, hello.
what are we talking about today?
Yeah, well, breaking through a growth ceiling. Yeah, and it sounds kind of, I don't know, like WWF or something maybe, but it's much more benign than that. Well, maybe not actually, because we're talking it could be potentially, you know, lots of money involved, lots of revenue anyway. So, but just as a kind of giving you an idea of what I'm talking about here, I was talking on the phone, or well, not on the phone, but in a meeting, let's say a virtual meeting with a founder, a business owner, CEO, a $4 million company here last couple of weeks ago or something like that. He
Oh,
said basically something to the effect of, "I feel like I'm pushing a stalled car uphill." So that's kind of what we're talking about here. It's this actual thing that the business owners feel, and that's what's hitting that growth ceiling is like. Um, all right, so what the things that we're going to talk about? What actually is a growth ceiling? Why getting more leads is not going to fix it? The three types of ceilings that a business may hit: visibility, viability, and valuation, and how to spot them, how to break through, and some, stories and practical next steps. So that's what we're talking about. And
sounds good.
yeah, so get started off here, what is a growth ceiling? And to kind of expand on what I had said previously, it's this invisible barrier where it just feels like your effort, you're working hard, you're doing all the things, and you're doing the things that you're supposed to be doing and that have worked before, but of all of a sudden, it just seems like it's like diminishing returns and things are crawling to a standstill to a certain
Oh,
degree.
it's that concept of what got you here won't get you there.
Yes, exactly, exactly.
Mm.
And it happens oftentimes when your internal systems that have not caught up to the external success that you're experiencing, and you start to feel like you're spinning your wheels, right? It's important to understand here too that it's not personal. It's not because of any kind of defect in the owner or the founder of the business, right? It's more of a structural concern. Sometimes the founders will feel like, oh man, it must be me. I'm just not working hard enough. I need to work, 80 more hours. Like,
But
um,
if you look at somebody else, right, as a founder who has been instrumental in bringing your company to a point where you're generating $4 million in revenue a year, then obviously, you as the founder, you're not doing too bad. You obviously have skills, you obviously have vision, and you've been able to get to bring this business to a pretty decent point. So clearly, you're not a problem. So the problem must be elsewhere.
yeah, and here's some common signs. The business owner is the one who needs to make decisions for everyone else there. That makes them kind of a bottleneck. The sales are kind of somewhat inconsistent. Um, they've started the business owner has started to hire a team, but they're still like that central hub around which all things must flow, right?
Mm.
And their marketing efforts just aren't converting like they used to. Used to be, we could go and talk about a sale that we're running on this, that, and the other, and we would have 150 new orders within, a couple hours, right? But all of a sudden, that's not quite working the same, and can't figure out why. What's going on here? Or the business owner finds themselves too busy to think, let alone lead the company, right? Those are kind of some of the
You
signs
don't
here.
have that founder CEO time where
Right.
you can actually really think about the direction of the company. So this is what Michael Gerber talks about, working in the business rather than working on it. If you're just busy, busy, busy doing all the
Yeah.
things, you don't have that you're not using your CEO hat.
Yeah. And most business owners in this case, or the founders, don't realize that they've hit this ceiling until they're exhausted, they're blaming all the wrong things. Maybe their team, the market downturn, maybe they're blaming themselves, right? And things are just starting to get maybe a little bit frustrating all the way around. So that leads us into the next portion here, the different types of growth ceilings that a business owner, a business may hit. Okay. So the first one is visibility. They've got a great offer, obviously, because it's gotten them to, where they're at currently,
Mm.
but there's not enough people that know about it. That's a problem. They're not very as visible as they could be, perhaps. Their marketing is inconsistent, it's disjointed, or it's based on guesswork. What I like to call random acts of marketing. That's, um, and
Let's
that
just throw
will,
something out there and see what
yeah,
happens.
that might have worked. That might have worked for a while, but
Yeah,
eventually you run into the problem where it just kind of fizzles out and doesn't have that magic anymore, right?
right.
Um, maybe the company's getting leads, but they're not the right leads. This is an important one, right? You can burn through a lot of money in ads, getting all kinds of views and impressions, and perhaps even people signing up, but are they the right ones? That's the question. Um,
Right.
you get a lot of tire kickers. I had a client like this where he was working with a lead generation agency, and the ad, the offer that they had in the ad consisted of basically click here to get 10% off. Okay, so who do you think is going to be interested in that, right?
Right. They're your what Myron calls your cheapo people.
Yes,
The ones who are looking
exactly.
for a discount.
Yeah, and he was putting all kinds of effort into putting together estimates for people that were never actually going to buy from him because once they realized how expensive it was, they were gone, ghosted. And so it just became unwieldy. Um, all right, maybe a company relies too heavily on referrals or word of mouth. This is also a problem. You know, a lot of times you have businesses that say, hey, I just get all referrals. Well, that's going to carry you only so far, really. And
Right. Because
the problem with,
the referrals tend to be, they're they're sporadic and they don't tend to be a consistent flow. That doesn't
yeah,
tend to give you a consistent flow of new
mhm.
leads.
Yeah, and
And
it's hard to,
you have to remember, you have to rely on people to remember to mention you,
yeah,
you know.
yeah. There are ways that you can kind of help to orchestrate that a little bit, but um, the problem with referrals is that it's a conversation that's being had without you there. You know.
That's true too. What are they saying?
Yes,
You
yes,
don't know. And what people might be promising. You may have, and I've seen this happen too. It's like sometimes you don't want people to refer you because you may have given somebody a great discount, a great deal as, a one-time thing, a special. And then but you don't want them to go back to go and tell their whole network that they can get the service or the product that you're offering at this price when you don't want
yeah,
to offer that price anymore. That
yeah.
was just a one-time deal.
Right, exactly. Yeah. And don't get us wrong here, referrals are great. You want referrals, but you want to have a system built around that, so
Yeah.
that you are controlling it, ideally, as much as possible. Okay. So some fixes here that you might want to consider to help with this visibility ceiling, working on your positioning so that it actually resonates with the people that you're trying to reach. And what on earth are we talking about when we say positioning, Simone? Or can
That
you?
is how you fit in the marketplace, adjacent to other people who are doing the same thing.
That's
So,
essentially what it
like,
is. Yeah.
yeah. So, Subway, both Subway and Jimmy John's does sandwiches, but one of them focuses on like
Quick and
healthy
fast.
sandwiches,
Yeah.
and the other one may focus on getting it fast. Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
right. Um, and if you throw Potbelly in the mix and you get another one that
Yeah.
is, well, we focus on it's great taste, or all our ingredients are locally sourced, or
Yeah.
um that kind of thing.
Yeah. And fast food restaurants are great. A great illustration of this because you know it's a substitute good in an economy, right? Which means that they can easily find something to fulfill that need elsewhere. And so
Hmm.
you have to really find something that makes you stand out in that case, to give them to give those people a reason to come visit you, right?
Right.
You really have to
Right.
occupy a space in their head. And so that's what positioning is about. One key and component of positioning is that um, you it has to be something that can't where you have to be able to say the opposite of it, right? So in other words, you can't say something like we have the highest quality at the lowest price. Okay. Well, who's going to say that they have the lowest quality at the highest price, right? That doesn't make sense. You know,
Right.
everyone's going
Right.
to say the same thing, in other words, right? In that case.
Right.
And that makes you exactly the same as anybody else.
Right.
Um, so keep that in mind. But
Right.
we could do a whole segment on positioning alone, but maybe you need to work on your lead capture system so that it's not leaking. That's something to take into consideration to fix, for this visibility ceiling. And
Yeah.
maybe you need to look into nurturing, creating a system around nurturing your leads so that you are there top of mind when they are ready to buy from you, because not everybody's ready to buy, right?
Yeah. They're not
From
ready to
my
buy when
under
you meet them, right?
Right. From my understanding, in any given market, no matter what you're trying to sell, and I've heard this several different times from several different sources, so you can tell me if I'm wrong there out there in YouTube land, but it's approximately 3 to 5% are ready to actually buy at any given time. And so the odds that you're talking to someone who's in that 3 to 5% are pretty low, right? Relatively speaking. And so, but you need to get on, you need to have them in your world, bring them into your world, nurture them and keep them going so that when they're actually ready to buy, then by gosh, they're there, you're there in their minds, right?
Gotta keep the
Okay.
keep the conversation going. Um,
Yes.
and sometimes that conversation needs to be both ways, where even though they're not ready to buy, they still have access to you. They can still ask you questions. They're still able to get information and get answers to their questions, even as they're coming closer and closer to that decision where, oh, now is the right time, you know.
Yeah.
Um,
And the modern customer journey is really crazy nowadays, right? And so they're coming at you from all different places in different states
I
and
wanted to
much.
mention that too.
Yeah. Okay.
Like when
Okay.
you're capturing those leads, A lot of people will focus on, okay, well, I've got a lead magnet and I've got my landing page set up for people to get that lead magnet, and that's where I'm getting my leads. Well, if you're, somebody responds to a post you make on Instagram, and you drop a link to your lead magnet and they never go there, do you lose that lead? Possibly. So, um, so we have to think about more than just the traditional ways of capturing leads.
Hmm. Yep. All right. Next up, the not to cut it short, but again, this is another topic that we could go off the whole hour on easily. Um, the viability ceiling. And what do we mean by if a business is viable, then it can exist without your, manual intervention 24/7, 365, right? When you go
Right.
on vacation, it doesn't fall apart, right?
You
That's what
or
we're talking about.
anybody else on your team, right? If you
Yes.
have crucial people on your team, and those crucial people are not going to be working for you 24/7. They have lives. They want to take vacations, they want to have days off, they want to make sure that their kids are okay, their spouses are okay, they're volunteering on the weekends. So what happens if a crucial person, a crucial member of your team needs a day off? Does
Yeah,
the work
yeah.
stop or does it continue? What if you want to take a vacation?
And
Or
again,
what
this
if you're
is
ready to, let the business run while you retire, or go start that nonprofit you've been wanting to start, right?
yeah. And again, this is like um uh I, I just lost my train of thought. I had something I was going to say. But anyway, it'll come back to me.
Sorry about that.
Um that's okay. um okay.
I just wanted to give
So
examples.
no, it's good. That's good. That's good. It'll come back to me. So, this is when your operations can't support the next level, essentially, right? Operations can mean a lot of things, though, right? It's a very big category in a business.
Yeah,
Um, I
especially depending
think,
on type of business it is, right?
yes, exactly. You have HR, production, it depends if it's a manufacturing business is going to have a heck of a lot of operations just to get that product out there, right?
I always think of it in terms of like the stakeholders, and mostly I think of the clients and customers. But if you're running a larger business and you have a team of employees, they are stakeholders as well as if you're a public company, or not, well, not even public, but you do have shareholders, you have investors, you know, you have the owners, you have a board of directors. All of these different entities have a stake. And so how are the operations serving each of them,
Yeah.
each of these groups of stakeholders?
Yeah. And it gets increasingly complex the larger the business gets, obviously. If you're
Yeah.
still a small team, relatively speaking, it might not be, too big of a deal for one person maybe to be the orchestrator of that. But again, that's if you are the one that is holding all that together, you're not able to step away to take the time for yourself to just think strategically about the business. Um, and that's a problem, because if you're a captain of the ship and you're down in the engine room, you know, keeping things going, then who in the world is steering it, right? So that's the problem. Um, okay, so you might have projects that are falling through the cracks. Your team gets stressed out. You are the one jumping between sales and service. Um, you might have manual processes, the lack of SOPs, just a general over reliance on you.
You're too accessible. That's not a good thing. I heard this analogy, was it yesterday when somebody said, imagine you're riding you're in a plane, you're on your way from one city to another city, and you ring the bell for the flight attendant, and the pilot comes out. You think, wait a minute, shouldn't you be too busy to be answering my call?
Yeah. Yeah, you got something else to be doing up there.
Should be doing something else like flying the plane?
It's okay. It's autopilot. It's okay. No problem.
Right. But
Yeah.
the point is, you don't want to be too accessible.
Yeah.
As the pilot, your job is that captain's seat in the cockpit. You are steering this whole machine. And you let the flight attendants do their jobs, let the mechanics do their jobs. When the plane is on the ground, nobody's expecting the pilot to jump out and go grab the hose to refuel or check all
Hmm.
the nuts and bolts and all of that. There's no, there's teams for that. Your job is to steer us. Where are we going?
Yeah.
You point us in the right direction.
And I was, being a little facetious about the autopilot, but that is actually one of the fixes here in this case is trying to automate as much as you can, what can be automated. And with AI agents coming out now and, things like Zapier, it's just becoming a lot easier to do that kind of thing.
Yes.
Um,
You can do
and
so much
so,
personalization with AI as well. Um,
yeah.
when the and we're learning more now, even as we're using it more, and the AI is learning about us. We're learning about it, right? We're learning that the more data you give it, the better information comes out of it. So
Mhm.
um, it has the capacity to really personalize and give your clients, give your team members that a little bit of a human touch, actually.
Yeah. Which can be crucial, depending. Going
Absolutely.
along with that, then, is you're delegating what can be delegated as much as possible. And it's a crucial piece of the puzzle here. It's the business owners who are ready, willing, and able to step back, delegate, and think strategically are the ones who are able to guide it to the next level. This has been proven through research. I mean, we're not pulling this out of thin air here. So these are facts. Um, if you can also, going along in the same vein here, standardizing repeatable processes, that's what the SOPs would be for, right? Anytime that you have something, I have heard somebody say, I think it was Cody Sanchez. She's a famous for what is her thing is oh, I can't remember now what it's called. But anyway, she is very big into like buying up boring businesses and
Mm.
making fortunes on boring businesses. And what she says is if you do something, if you find yourself doing something 3 times, you need to record this.
Okay.
Write
Yeah.
down exactly what process it is that you're doing so that you can hand this over to somebody else and say, here, do this. you know,
It either
and
needs to be delegated or automated.
yes, and the way that you document it, it's up to you. There's various ways to do this, various tools out there to make it easy. So there's no excuses, in other words. You should be able to do this.
Right.
Um, okay, valuation, valuation ceiling. So I think I might have well, we might have already mentioned this, but the central question here is: Are you in business to create a job for yourself, or are you in business to build a business? Like, there's a difference there. And if you are in the business to build a business, then at some point you're probably thinking, well, this is I need to exit out of this, right? And I want to make sure that this business is something that somebody else will actually want, right? So and that functions without me. right? Because
Absolutely. It has to be a business that runs without you or doesn't depend on you. Otherwise,
yeah,
you have to stay in it even if somebody else buys it.
yeah. In this case, the valuation ceiling, you're probably making money, but the business isn't building any value necessarily. There's no real system for upselling your current clients. As they say, your the client or the customer that you have now is your best customer, right? And it's a lot less expensive for you to keep and retain clients, maximize customer lifetime value, upsell than it is to go out and acquire a new one. Right? It's much more expensive and time consuming to get more new customers. So if you don't have a real system for upselling them, for orchestrating that referral, uh, or keeping them on board, then that's a problem. Maybe your revenue relies on you hustling as you have done from the start. Yeah, you're still in that. Maybe you're still partially in that survivor mindset, right? Survival mode. Um, and you haven't really established repeatable models. So that's what we're talking about here. Some fixes, as I touched on already, um, concentrating on customer lifetime value and or like creating a path for them to follow and to keep following into the future, right? That some doing something for them, providing value, continually providing value that keeps them makes them keep coming back. Systematizing those referrals, creating a system around that, crucial. Building your infrastructure that boosts your exit value. So you have all the numbers, all the data, right, that you need, which is really important. I talked to some business valuation experts last fall, and I said, what's the one thing that you wish you saw more of in a business? And they said, data. A lot of times we have to come in and help them assemble all this information. Save yourself some time and energy and effort and money, and get that going now, right? Um, so anyway, what ends up happening here is that these three ceilings that we just talked about, the visibility, the viability, and the value ceilings, are often stacked on one another. You you can break through one, but then the next one is right there, and you just keep hitting your head. It feels like, right? And so that's what we're talking about: creating a structured approach to your business here. And I'll talk a little bit about a recent case study with a client of mine. He was doing, good work. He's a kitchen bathroom modeler. He's doing good work. He had decent word of mouth, but he was really stuck. The original conversation actually revolved around, I really need people that I need to find good help. Can't find good help anymore is kind of like a common refrain. And the construction industry, it's difficult. It's very difficult because people often say that they know how to do things, but how can you prove it until they're actually on the job, right? So it can be hiring can be an expensive process, really. You got to kiss a lot of toads, I guess, and kiss a lot of frogs. I don't know. Um, so in this case, the owner of the business was a bottleneck, right? Um, all the jobs, all the leads, all the client relationships went through him. He was the one doing all the estimations. It was absolutely pulling him in 1,000 different directions at once. And I can't imagine he managed to do that for several years. They were doing okay financially. They doubled their previous year's revenue by the time by the end of last year. I started talking to him in January last year. But there was no real good way to grow without him working harder, and he was already more than maxed out, right? So what we started doing was implementing this system that we're talking about here to help break it down and rebuild it. we looked at the visibility of the business. Uh, were they, trying to help them show up where their customers were looking, worked on with SEO. Um, we also looked at viability. Well, so with SEO, we increased organic traffic by 146%, over 4,000 new visitors to the site. Their viability, the business couldn't scale because there's no systems. Everything lived in the owner's head. Um, so we started to document repeatable processes, clarify who's doing what, and get that communication down, and then started to create structured handoffs so that we knew that they knew when a client came in, they came on board, there was an onboarding process, and they talked to this person about this, and et cetera, et cetera. He'd hired a project manager and things like that to help things smooth things over. So we got smoother operations, fewer drop balls, and more time for the owner to think in that case. For the valuation portion, um, we were trying to, he wanted to exit the business in 3 years. That was his goal. And so we definitely started off this process with that in mind. What does the long term look like? How are we going to help build value in the business? So looking at creating upsell systems in the process, while they're there on site, you know, having the guys look at certain things. Oh, I see this over here. Would you be interested in an upgrade on this, et cetera, right? Um, Looking into referrals and having the workers actually uh, hand out business cards like that said on the back of this, call this number when you're ready, or hand this out to somebody. And if that person came back to the company, then the owner get agreed to give $200 to their workers as a bonus for every new referral, in other words. Just another way that they can be out there in the field talking to the customers, handing business cards and encouraging that. Um, and then, yeah, the whole point there was trying to, encourage, repeat business, scalable revenue. And we ended up getting more than $150,000 in new revenue in a few months, and uh, a business that doesn't grind to a halt when he goes on vacation. So that's good. Um, all right, let's see here. Okay, let's go on to the next one here. Why? Okay, why you can't solve this problem with tactics. So we've been talking a lot about being strategic, and strategy is like one of those nebulous, abstract words. I don't know about you, but when I hear strategy, I immediately think of chess, you know. But yeah,
Playing a war, a
yeah,
war game.
or yeah, yeah, and it's true. I mean, strategy in those cases wins battles. There's no doubt about that. Strategy is useful in sports as well.
Mm,
A number of different areas, really. Having a
that's true.
strategy for having a strategy for how you're going to learn the subject in school, for example, right? Is a great thing to take into consideration. Um, but in this case, there's strategy and then there's tactics, right? The strategy is the plan, it's the big picture, and the tactics are all the ways that you're going to accomplish that. That's kind of how I think of it. Um, and unfortunately, most business owners, they start solving this ceiling problem with these surface level fixes that are tactics, right? They think, oh, we just need to run more ads, right? We need to hire another account manager, or we need to switch our CRM. It's broken. It's not working for us. Things like that. But the problem there is that you're throwing tools at a structure problem, right? Throwing a hammer at a frame of a house, you know. Um, and so what actually works is getting a diagnosis. This is, what prescription without diagnosis is malpractice, as they say. So getting somebody to look at what's going on in your business and help you figure out what it is that you actually need, what you're missing, can go a long way um, to setting you on the right path there. Having a plan that aligns all three of these various aspects, your visibility, your viability, and the value of the business is important. It's all part of the system, right? And that's what we're talking about. That's the difference between more effort and more leverage. Leverage gets tossed around, I think, a lot these days, but that doesn't necessarily mean that it's not valuable.
Absolutely, absolutely. I think one of the things that just had me thinking about, throwing a tactic at the problem is that if you haven't really did a strategic diagnosis and you haven't looked at your whole system, your whole client journey, and everything that goes into each of those pieces, it's that you may throw something at one of the uh, pull out a tactic and throw it in there, but it's affecting something else in the system down the line. And so you have to look at the whole thing together. Otherwise,
Yeah.
um, your tactic isn't going to work.
Yeah, it's like they highly recommend that you change all four tires when you change tires.
Right.
There's a reason why. Um, but it's the same thing. You know, being more strategic, stepping back, looking at it from the bit. It's the difference between being. I like to say it's the difference between being at the bottom of the mountain, looking up, at all the work and effort that it's going to take to get where you want to go, versus being on top of that mountain, looking down and seeing everything, from that perspective. It's a different shift. It's just a mind shift. So often business owners in this stage where they want to grow are just so in the business they just can't see the forest for the trees, right? Um, okay, so how are we going to break through here? How are we going to break through to our growth ceilings? So step one, identify what the ceiling is. And in this case, we're not talking about guessing here, right? You get a diagnosis, and I'll include a link in the notes below where you can go there and answer some questions, and it will give you a diagnosis of where you're at and some ideas on things that you can start to implement right away. Prioritize based on leverage. So what's one bottleneck that unblocks everything else, or at least several other things, right? And I'm guessing, if you're looking at these three things, value, viability, excuse me, visibility,
Visibility,
value,
value,
good
and
grief,
viability.
vi visibility, viability, and value, then those are probably going to do the trick, because there's a lot that goes on within each of those, right? Um, All right, so align your growth engine. Step three. So this is looking at that visibility, your leads, what's coming in, and how you're handling that, which leads into your viability, right? Are you able to follow up with those leads? Is there a system for onboarding clients? How are you keep your customers happy from the start? And of course, delivery is a crucial part of that. And then, of course, your value, right? Is this a scalable business that is going to actually grow and take off and keep something that somebody is going to want to buy from you someday, right? Step four, simplify, systematize, and then scale. And yeah, so again, it's called the growth ceiling assessment tool that you can use to help start the process by diagnosing where you're at. on that case. Okay.
So,
Yeah. So as a quick recap, growth ceilings are structural. It's not personal. It's not because you're lazy. You're not working. You need to work 80 more hours. No, that's not the case. Um, More leads are not going to fix your broken model here. Um, Operational chaos kills your momentum, and systematized value creation unlocks a scalable business. So, if you feel like you're stuck, then don't guess. You can get started with the assessment, the growth ceiling assessment. It takes 5 minutes, maybe tops, and it'll show you exactly where your current bottleneck is and give you some ideas on how to overcome. So,
absolutely. And the link will be in the description.
yep.
So we are, so go there, take 5 minutes, take that growth ceiling assessment and find out where you are before you do anything. You don't want to be guessing. You want to get some idea of where you are. Um, and then after you take that assessment, then you'll find out what the next step is if it doesn't look too good, right? All right. So we want to break past these growth ceilings so that you can have a better business and a better life. So thank you for watching. We will see you next time. Oh, don't forget to subscribe and like this video and comment